Why is Catalan a stupid bet? And here we go.
Catalan is off the board already.
You want a champagne there.
No, it's a King's Pawn opening, and it's the Italian game. So we actually saw a battle in the World Championship match when Jan had to win. He was in a must-win situation in this opening. And that means a lot of pieces on the board, a lot of tension. We actually mentioned this opening yesterday. Right, guys? It's just full of life, full of rich, complex kind of nuances for later in the game. Magnus, meanwhile, pushing a pawn on the side of the board, and Jan looking off to the side, just trying to work out what he had planned. And, OK, the black bishop retreats very early on. This is exactly what Magnus did in the World Championship match against Jan Nepomniachtchi. And in that game, we criticised Jan for maybe taking a step back with the white knight on that last move, but this time he goes forward with the white knight. So the game has diverted away from that World Championship match, and white trying to break forward in the centre, at least trying to occupy the centre with pawns. Black, however, castled, and look at that black dart-squared bishop. What a journey it's been on already, now blocked by its own pawns. But Magnus will try and rectify that over the next few turns. Black is rock solid, but white is more active for now.
Yeah, very complex position, these. I mean, there's lots of manoeuvring that needs to be done, but it is a very strange position of the black bishops. I mean, they're next to each other, and one of the black squares looks rather pathetic at the moment. I mean, it is tucked away there, but I think it's the potential in Magnus's position that you have to watch out for. If he can free that bishop up, then he's going to be OK. But, I mean, just at the moment, from my eyes at least, it looks very nice for Jan. But this must still be the world champ preparation.
Well, guess what? OK, so there has been one game in my database played, and it was played in 2022. And the player of the white pieces was Sergei Karyakin, Nepomniachtchi's second. And the player of the black pieces was Jordan van Forest. Guess who's second? Magnus Carlsen second.
Battle of the seconds. Yeah. And what was the result?
Sergei Karyakin won.
Interesting.
That was just over a month ago in Vaikanze, and a very dramatic game there.
OK.
Will we see the paths diverge from that game? The black knight stepping back, white's pawn now moving forward. Are we still on path?
We're still on path.
Yeah.
OK.
I remember watching that game and thinking, OK, black's position looks solid, but not much fun to play. Still some work to be done to just get black's pieces out from their starting squares, from their starting rank. And white's last pawn push has also created a nice hole for the white knight to step back to. And, yeah, maybe we can jump into the position just to show some of the ideas for both sides. And it's all about these pawns for white. White would love to gain even more space, maybe step this guy forward, potentially even capture in the centre of the board. But black says no, he's just going to park both of his knights on this king side. They're going to act as defenders and later maybe march forward to try and attack as well. And I'm expecting maybe the white bishop to come out. I don't think white wants to shut down the centre yet. If you shut the centre down too soon, we might see a kickback begin, the white knight forced to retreat, and then black's bishop suddenly becoming active on this diagonal. So I think white will just develop his pieces, maintain the tension. What do we think, guys? In this current position, who do we prefer? And also, is this still the game between Karyakin and van Forest?
Yes, it's still very much the game.
It seems like this is often Magnus's strategy, that he's willing to take these positions which are probably a little bit worse, right? I mean, a really small bit worse. And if it was me playing, or like, I don't know, like a number of other people, you just get in trouble. Yeah. But, you know, when it's Magnus playing, he's very happy to take these positions and just equalise at some point. Very confident in them.
But here's the new move, the capture of the pawn.
Okay.
After that, this is the players are on their own.
Yeah, I'm surprised because in a position like this, black has less space, black's pieces are cramped, not doing much. Exchanging is against the nature of the position when you have more space. It just frees up black's position. That being said, as you guys mentioned, Magnus just loves this pawn structure, a rock-solid structure in the centre. So after a trade and a trade of knights as well, we see white pushing forward, trying to clamp down on the position. And the knight finally kicked back. But who does this favour? To me, I don't like what Nepomniachtchi is doing, because black has an easy plan out of bringing his bishop out. Maybe this bishop will come to the side, attack this pawn in conjunction with the knight as well. And this pawn looks a bit weak. I don't see white's pieces really activating quickly enough to cause black any trouble. So, OK, right now, still slightly more space for white, but can he utilise it? That's the question. Magnus, very, very solid. Next move, he's going to bring his bishop out. He's going to connect his rooks. And healthy enough for black for now.
All right. Well, we were talking about the tour badges and NFTs we're talking about. And if you want a free NFT from the tour collection, then if you go to chesschamps.io and subscribe to the newsletter, you can actually get a free NFT, which is very cool.
Is it Christmas? So much free stuff.
I know, yeah.
Free stuff on
Free stuff
But
everywhere.
you're paying for it, David.
Yeah. I just want to record it tomorrow when I pick up my free drinks. I just want to sit back, you know, just you know.
Have David bring some grapes as well.
Yeah.
You'll just be reclining. I'll feed you some. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
I'll be the waiter for the night.
I'll take it easy. So yeah.
Meanwhile, yeah, I know that Magnus has an NFT, right, from last season's tour.
Yeah. And the winner in this one will get that NFT trophy that you see in the bottom of the screen. And one NFT trophy is also available for auction for the highest bidder. So head into chesschamps.io to make your bid for that trophy. And I have to say, Jan switched his cup is one thing I have to say. And the other thing is that Magnus looks super into this position, leaning forwards, very focused.
Yeah, and that's body language we didn't really see from him in the prelim stage.
Yeah.
It looked like he was just lacking energy following his COVID infection. And yeah, it looks like he's back, feeling healthy, feeling focused. And that's shown today in his play. And meanwhile, both sides have played very quickly up to this point, almost moved 20. Jovanka, do you think this is still preparation from Nepomniachtchi, potentially? He's diverted from that game you mentioned, but look at the clock. He's gained time from when he started. We're already at move 19.
Mm-hmm. I think this is definitely a preparation because he played that pawn push, taking some space there on the left side of the board. He played that very quickly. And so he certainly, maybe it might not be exactly theory, but he's aware of the plans. And Magnus just sitting and trying to figure out how exactly he's going to develop his pieces.
Yeah, this pawn structure arises quite often from the King's Indian defence. Very often from the King's Indian defence, and it all depends on whether black is able to trade off pieces before white gets organised. If white gets organised, maybe relocates the white knight round to maybe the c4 square, so in front of it. It has some targets. There are some outposts potentially for the white knight. And black's dark squared bishop, I mentioned, maybe it will try and attack white's far advanced pawn, but then again, that will just be defended, and black's dark squared bishop may be the problem piece, the problem child in this position for Magnus.
Certainly seems a bit harder for black to play. If you look at weak squares, and black's moved the bishop to at least cover the big weakness there, which is the b6 square. Mm-hmm. If white's going to try to maybe get a knight into that square. If Magnus is going to play an opening like this, he's got to expect to get a position like this, right?
Yeah.
Because you're maybe very slightly worse because you've got some weaker squares, a little bit less space, but you're incredibly solid. And it's very hard to break the position down. I'd always like to be white, though, in this type of structure, because it's you shouldn't really lose this unless you do something outrageous, and you can just try to improve your pieces and come into the squares. And he's just slowly improving Jan with this last move. And maybe the A5 pawn is going to be weak later on as well. The black pawn on the side of the board, potentially. So it looks very comfortable for Jan. When a draw is an OK result, you draw day one, but you've got that chance to push for a win. And playing with the white pieces, that's the kind of position you want, right? Yeah. Risk-free kind of way to push.
Yeah, and one manoeuvre that white might try is to, for example, if black just waits and doesn't do too much, bring the knight to the side of the board. If black just continues to wait, maybe relocate the knight back and into this square. And then you can kind of peer at these two outposts, just check out that maybe pawn on the side of the board. You mentioned, Simon, the pawn in the centre. And I don't think black ever wants to trade off a bishop for one of the knights, because the two bishops might become very strong later in the game. Obviously, you have to prepare this, not exactly in this move order, but just one idea for later.
Mm-hmm. And just checking out the selfies, quite interesting how some of you are telling us some stories. Some of you are watching from Uruguay, some of you on dinner dates with your wives. Big hello to you all. And I have a question from Rina of Kernia. It's quite interesting, actually. Are chess players better decision takers in general outside of chess?
Interesting.
No.
I would say, if anything, it's the opposite.
Yeah, I would say knowing chess players, probably the opposite, actually. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you, David. Just it's like that saying, oh, chess players are really intelligent, you know, there's, because they play chess. And everyone thinks that generally chess players are much more intelligent than normal people. Well, I say normal people, but people who don't play chess.
That's what I tell everyone, Simon.
That's an absolute load of rubbish as well, I think, you know. So maybe some of them, of course, you know, but in general, I don't think that's true, you know. So, or do you think, I don't know, do you think chess players are more intelligent than non-chess players?
I think chess players in general, I think the average IQ for chess players is higher than the normal public.
I think it's a big myth. I think anyone can be a chess player, and we're all kind of quite normal. But I think the thing is, chess players they tend to be very confident, especially the higher up in ratings you go, and so they sound very clever. And but one thing I do think chess really helps you with. I do think it's good with decision taking, but not necessarily in the taking part, but in assessing all the consequences. We are very good at sitting there and go, what happens if option A, option B? And we take a very considered, planned approach there.
The problem is life doesn't really work like that. Often you see all the options, you know that you could do all these different things, but then you become indecisive. I know that I know myself, but also a lot of chess players, they procrastinate because they know, oh, OK, I could do this, but then this could happen, A could happen, B could happen, C could happen, D could happen. Oh, it's too complicated. And then they don't take decisions at all. So actually, I think the stronger the chess player, the less likely they are to make big life decisions unless given a push.
I once overheard a conversation between two grandmasters who were a couple, and he spent 10 minutes agonising whether he should have the room key or whether his wife should have the room key. And I kid you not, at the end, I felt like intervening and going, I will have the room key. Enough.
Well, one thing we do know about decision-making that Airthings is teaching us is that you should never make a decision after a very long meeting in a room because the air quality will be bad. So you need to get some fresh air and then make the decision.
Yeah, or make the decision early in the meeting. And lots of decisions being made on the board as we see the moves fly in, but not too much has changed. We see White has centralised his rooks, now dropping back his bishop, allowing one trade of rooks. I'm surprised he's rushed with that. But then again, maybe there was nothing else to do, and Magnus will try and get all the rooks off the board. We just see some manoeuvring. If all the rooks disappear, Magnus is slightly closer to equality, and the black pieces will no longer be fighting for the same squares. Black was cramped for space, and that's less of an issue now.
I'm a little bit worried about Black's A-pawn, though.
Yeah, that's the one target, right?
Yeah, I mean, if White can just move the queen up one square and then put the knight into this hole, I'm not sure how Black's going to defend that pawn in the long run. That's the one, the one target, as you say, that is in Black's position here.
Yeah, this pawn, I mean, it's a bit of a similar case to the other game, right? If you could kind of just put it back on its start square, maybe Black's just equal, maybe Black's doing OK. But, right now it's defended by its bishop, and this plan you highlighted, Simon, I'm trying to find a good way to make it happen. For example, if we step our rook forward one square, for example, and we see a trade here, if Black, again, doesn't do too much, then the white knight will step forward. This is what you're highlighting, right? Just cutting, severing the connection between the bishop and this pawn, and now this pawn attacked by the white queen. And only one way to actually defend it, that's to trade off. And most likely, this would backfire on Black because this pawn's still under fire, and White has the bishop pair now. This pawn as well, very close to promotion.
Interesting decision here, David, because you can go for that pawn, but actually Jan's deciding to go for another pawn in the position. So
yeah, really interesting. He brought his rook across. I guess he just doesn't want to allow a trade. And yes, Black has access to the open file now, but what's he going to do with it? No squares, no entry squares in the white half. Every square is covered by one of White's bishops. Yep. Now the knight coming back, maybe just scared of your idea at some point, Simon, the knight jumping in.
Yeah, covering.
Yeah, I'm not sure Jan's going to rush with this pawn push. I think he just wanted to keep the pieces on, but what else could he do? Maybe he could trade a set of bishops. Maybe he could drop this knight back, bring it round this way. Just a different avenue. Still pleasant for White, right?
Yeah, I think so. Even if you go push the A pawn and then the B pawn, and then you can certainly just slowly try to encroach on Black's position here.
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. But Black is solid, so it's heating up slowly.
I must admit, I really like your plan, David, of retreating the knight and then relocating it to the c4 square, because from there, that knight is very powerful. Now, obviously, you have to look after the white pawn on c5, But once you have that covered, then you can maybe get another small advantage that maybe black is obliged to capture that knight, and then you have the bishop pair, and then you have the potential to open up the B line. So there's like two little things that you can get excited about.
Yeah, I think we can combine the plans in a way, because if black just waits again, for example, the white knight can't really jump forward yet because of this capture. So maybe now we go to Simon's plan, push these forward first, push these pawns, and then plant the white knight on this really nice square. And lots of plans for white, but just putting them together in the right order. That is what Jan is trying to do. And meanwhile, black is a bit stuck. White can play moves such as pushing the pawn forward, such as retreating the knight. He can play those things at his leisure. And it's not clear entirely what black does. I mean, this bishop is stuck. This knight is on its ideal defensive square. This rook behind it, a bit stuck as well. I don't think black's ever going to initiate play on this side of the board, on the king side, because white is just too solid over there. It's very symmetrical on the right half of the board. So, yeah, play will switch over to this left side, and if anyone's better there, it is white. It's Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Well, if we do have a winner in this game, then that player will be the winner of the first match in the final and be up by 1 point before the second and final match tomorrow. And I guess it's still early days in this game, but is this a game that both of them can win?
I think it's more likely white will win. It feels like black's just on the defensive, just trying to hold the line, just trying to stay solid. But, I mean, the more I look at it, the more I like white's position.
Yeah, maybe just a very clever opening choice that Jan has prepared, before, because he probably realises he's got the chances to win and he shouldn't lose this position, which is what you want with the white pieces against Magnus.
Incidentally, I did see a tweet earlier on that Peter Lecker, who's also commenting on another channel, or Tanya Sajdev, he actually said that they were very, very disappointed in the opening in that World Championship game at the end, that game 11, that Nepomniachtchi retreated the knight. Everyone was betting that he would play the knight forward. In fact, that's what they had prepared. Oh. And Nepomniachtchi didn't play it.
Wait, I'm trying to remember the position you mean there.
It was a move 11, so the knight, the knight came up and attacked the bishop.
Right, okay.
It was, white's knight earlier jumping forward to the b5 square rather than retreating to c2.
Right, yes, that's what we saw here. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So this game could have happened in the World Championship. We could have had this position in the World Championship, basically.
This is the kind of thing which could have changed the World Championships, actually. I mean, certainly.
And when you make a mistake like that, you forget your theory, and then everyone comes and tells you off afterwards, like, why didn't you do this?
It's quite good news, isn't it? Because it means, like, even these guys who are playing for the World Championships, they'd be preparing it, and they forget their move on move 9 or something. Yeah. It's like they're mortal. Yeah. And it's like, they are actually human beings, and it can happen to anyone. So it's it's quite nice to hear that in a way, So it gives us all hope of, if we make mistakes, it's normal. So,
But don't you find that every time you make a mistake, you tend to remember? You tend to remember afterwards, I made that mistake here, so therefore...
So immediately afterwards, or...?
Oh, no, even a long time afterwards. I remember once, so I was playing some blitz games online, and then I lost quite badly in one of my favourite openings, and then I was like, why did I lose so badly here? And I actually went and I analysed my game, and then it stuck with me, like, OK, you needed to do this, just as you had analysed in 2007, and I was like, OK, I need to do that. And then it came in 2015, and I remembered because of this mistake. So I think mistakes are good to make in preparation, and also maybe good in real life as well, so that next time you find yourself in that situation, you remember.
Is that why often when they do prepare, and I did see Magnus from his training camp, they would talk about some openings, and he would play blitz games with his seconds. Is that to basically make mistakes and remember easier? Yeah,
I think it's exactly what Jovanka said, and it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier today about memory. If you play it on the board, if you discuss it with your opponent afterwards, it's more likely to stick in your mind. If you just look at it on a computer screen, if you just tap an arrow, just going, OK, memorize, it won't stay. It's like preparing for exams, basically. It's the same thing. You have to be active with your revision. You can't just be lazy and just assume that it will sink in. So, OK, meanwhile, a couple of moves on the board. Simon, this plan you mentioned, pushing the pawn forward, he didn't even prepare it as white.
I'm a little bit surprised because white's pawn structure is now worse than black's pawn structure, and that's quite dangerous to do that against Magnus, because if things backfire, you could be in a worse ending. But it also is quite logical because your rook is attacking the pawn. I mean, you're opening up your rook. You're playing with your pieces, though, now, more than your pawns. I think it's quite interesting. You talk about blitz and playing blitz to improve positions. And they had that big thing in poker, really. When poker went online, the quality improved like so drastically. Because if you used to play poker, you could only play, I don't know, let's say 50 hands in a day because you have to wait for the dealer. When you're playing online, you're playing 50 hands in like 5 minutes. So the amount of information you're gathering is exponentially higher. So you're getting so much more information. You're learning from that information at such a higher rate. And it's the same with blitz chess, right? You can play blitz at such a higher, you get more games in and absorb more information. And I think you can see all the young grandmasters do that now, don't they? They just practice online bullet chess and they get all the information a lot quicker. So it's probably why another reason there's been a big rise in the strength of players, I guess. So
that's why they're becoming grandmasters younger and younger at 12 years old now, because at the age of 12, they probably played more games than maybe 30 years ago players had played by the time they were 25. So, more kind of more games to analyse as well, a bigger sample size of games where you can learn from your mistakes and study. And, meanwhile, Jan getting up, looking confident. Jan was shaking his head kind of not in a bad way, just confused about Magnus's last move. And to be honest, I'm surprised that Magnus moved so quickly. If we dive into the position, just to catch up with what has happened over the last few turns, we see a really dramatic moment that I was about to say didn't happen on the board, but it has now just happened on the board. White stepped forward with this pawn. We thought he would prepare this, and after a trade, I was expecting Black to pick up this pawn and maybe push it forward, utilising the fact that en passant here would drop a rook. Still complicated, but if White takes this pawn as if it just moved once, then Black could zoom forward and capture the white rook. Still very complicated after pawn takes bishop, for example, and the rook blocking. Maybe Jan was expecting this, Magnus just not going for this, but he's gone for it in a different way. So if we catch up with the current position, the black rook just slid across to defend this pawn. Now after the white queen sidestepped, we see this black pawn push en passant, looking like it's just a very strong move. And it was played by Jan Nepomniachtchi, but Magnus's idea is to bring his bishop out, allowing en passant, allowing this strong passed pawn to survive white to pawn up. But look at this, the white rook is actually trapped. These two black bishops actually cover all of the escape squares for this rook. So it's really complicated right now. I'm expecting Jan, well, there's two options basically. This rook is doomed. You either step forward with your pawn and allow the capture and then take back with your pawn. You're actually down on material of rook for a bishop, but you have this strong pawn as compensation. Or the alternative is to just sidestep with the rook, also giving it up, but getting a very strong bishop in return and looking towards the enemy king now. So Magnus is about to go material up, but the evaluation bar still in the middle means that the computer thinks white has great compensation here.
Decision time. Which bishop do you want? I think I would choose the light squared bishop. I'm going first.
Yeah, I'd probably, instinctively say the same because in those kind of positions, it's a great attacking piece towards your opponent's king. So, they both look nice there because if you do it the other way, you get the c5 square, which is really tempting. You can put a piece on that one. So either way, they look good, right? I mean, I think I take white in both positions actually. So
this move or this one are the two ones we're expecting, and yeah, as you guys say, you can give up your rook, but okay, he chooses to give his rook up for this bishop. Yep. And after the pawn push, we see a trade. Don't think we'll see the queen take back this bishop. It feels like white wants to keep the queen on the board. There we go. White's queen is potentially a great piece on this diagonal and maybe along this file as well, this line.
Looks like a really nice sacrifice. Yeah. I mean, because that pawn is 2 squares away from queening, and I don't think you can ever eliminate that pawn. I mean, how bad is this for black, actually? I mean, the computer says that black's better, which I find surprising.
Yeah, me too.
Because that pawn just seems so strong here, so advanced up the board. It's always going to have some tactical ideas around just queening it at some point. Mm-hmm. So I like, and also it's kind of position Jan likes playing, right? He likes having the initiative. He's got the initiative and he's got a bit of pressure here.
Yeah, this is the type of position it might say roughly 0.0, but I mean, one wrong slip and it's going to shoot off in white's favour. Yeah, I doubt we'll see it go off in the other direction. Feels like Magnus is the one who has to be most accurate, and maybe this is also the type of position as the computer thinks more, as the horizon gets further and further, it will realise this is a long-term advantage for white, this just having this pawn here, and it does balance out the material deficit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm not even sure what black's plan is as well. Again, it's going back to that idea, who's got the easier plan, and white can improve his queen, try to get the c5 square, so c6 square. So yeah,
White can bring the bishop out and push the pawn even further at some point. Plenty of ideas. White, as you mentioned, you can jump into this square at some point as well. I don't see what black does at all.
Can black play for perhaps eliminating that dangerous pass pawn and returning the material and just say,
Dropping the queen back and then
let's
taking.
just...
Yeah, actually, maybe Ivanka,
It's kind of not that nice and it's not aggressive, but maybe it's necessary.
But maybe you go queen d2 against that one, and then try to come into the central square and d6.
Gosh.
And not win, but just annoy the opponent.
Yeah, but if I could come right into d6 and maybe you can go rook a8, but rook a8 looks very risky.
Yeah, it's scary times. I mean, even if the rook moves, you just step back with the knight, or at the minimum. Actually, maybe you can even jump forward with the knight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the tactics seem to work out in white's favour, all due to this pawn being strong. For example, knight takes pawn. We'd see some trades, just to show an example. And the white bishop's also very, very good. Bishop takes knight, and white would be winning. Two bishops stronger than the rook.
I think I'm actually thinking like this is really bad for black. As in
Current position?
It feels like there might be a bet coming on here.
Oh, I'm not brave enough to take you on in this one. I know they say third time lucky, but...
Yeah, third time's a charm. You sure? Do you want to check your wallet first and see if you can...
I have to call the bank first to see how much I can borrow.
I will give you draw odds with black. You can have a draw or win from Magnus, the world champion. And I'm gonna go for a Jan win with white.
Simon, you're very brave.
What are we playing for this
I still want you to owe me one drink, so maybe just one drink. I don't know. What would you like to go for if you did take it?
So you are banking on a white win, and I would get
the odds.
Draw and a black win.
It's like bargain of the century.
Yeah, but I'm not a gambler, and you're an expert, and
I don't know about that.
not at gambling. I meant like at chess, clearly.
Oh, I don't know.
Take it, David. Take it.
Okay.
One beer. So if one drink. So if I win this, you
he's
owe me
offering the hand,
3
Simon.
drinks.
Take
Bang,
it.
we're in.
Okay. Right,
We're
we
in.
have a
back to the
bet in the
players.
studio.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. The clock times are in Magnus's favour. I'm going to be looking for any small benefit for black. I love white's position. That's why I'm a bit stressed about this bet. But
This position seems nice.
okay.
Queen
Magnus
b6.
just putting the black queen on a slightly better square and
Bishop e2.
really calm.
Why?
Not the move you like there, Simon.
I mean,
So Simon's going to need a win for Jan in this game to win that bet.
I don't like
Draw.
Bishop e2. It just seems
Black win. Good for David.
That's why you were brave, Simon.
Well, I didn't expect him to play that, but okay, rook a8.
It was a calm move by white, but yeah, just a bit slow.
It seemed very slow. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to play, but okay.
Okay, so white's knight under fire from this black rook. That knight most likely just has to move.
I don't like the way the bar's going that way. What's happening with that bar? Is it going the wrong way?
Yeah, I'm just staring at that bar, trying to use my telekinesis to make it go in black's direction now.
So what? Okay, I mean, it wasn't clear what white should have played instead of bishop e2. But bishop e2 is like, what's it actually doing?
Yeah, you're not really instantly playing as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're not playing with a purpose. You need to play with a purpose, and it's a very safe move. But you're not really worried about the queen coming down anyway. So I mean, it just
white's queen feels like it could have been improved.
Yeah.
But wait one second here. I mean, is there an issue with the knight?
The white knight?
The white knight. I'm just looking at the board and I'm just thinking, where's it going to go? It's only really got one square.
What some problems?
The bishop now is bad on e2 because of rook a2 ideas, right? So
I mean, you can't move your queen, because if you move the queen to defend the knight, then okay, the pawn on b4 is hanging.
Yeah.
You can't jump in with your knight forward because, oops, the pawn on b6 lacks protection. So either you have to, and my bishop, even better than that, the bishop is hanging. Okay, so if you retreat the knight, that's like one step in the wrong direction.
Now maybe the queen drops back and you round up this pawn.
Yep. Okay, so maybe you can't even do any decoys.
Still complicated, but looking like Magnus maybe turning things in his favour. How does Jan keep his knight defending this pawn? maybe this pawn, which we highlighted as a strength, might not be defensible anymore.
You feeling good, Dave?
I'm feeling better. Do you want to up the stakes, Simon?
No.
If I win the bet, you'll dress up as a Teletubby?
No chance. What the hell? No way is that happening ever. No chance.
I like that the stakes are getting higher here.
Yeah, this is... No.
OK, interesting move there by Nepomniachtchi. Struggling to defend his knight, he decided to counterattack against the black queen. And now he's maybe hoping that the bishop gets traded and black captures it with the knight, because now the white pawn, I guess, will recapture. And these guys, as a combo, are going to be hard. OK, this does happen.
It's taken it.
Wow.
These guys are going to be hard to break down long term. Then again, maybe it's just very, very concrete here. Maybe black can just trade the queens. Oof,
This is the thing that
really sharp.
That Magnus and the, I notice a lot in their play. It looks incredibly risky to take that knight, but they just have so much supreme confidence in their calculation. And maybe he's just calculated he can just get away with this and, I don't know, swap the queens off or something.
I think he can.
Exchange up.
I mean, like David highlighted, once the queen comes off, basically all you need is the light square bishop to keep an eye on the passed pawn sitting on b6, and then the rook is free to wander the board, and it's going to create a lot of mischief.
That being said, it's still quite concrete. White could push forward with his pawn, rendering the black rook passive, and now defend it with his bishop. And maybe this pawn, it looks strong, but the white king can march over and deal with it. Still super complicated. To me, it's not clear anymore.
I got quite excited because I was like, oh, what happens if the bishop gives herself up?
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting.
Like this?
Yes.
But I think knight b6.
But then the knight comes and sits on b6, and then...
Yeah, so black's rook gets active, but it can be blocked off by the white knight. And in the current position, Nepomniachtchi is thinking, not this position, after this one, black's knight captured, and does he take with a pawn, which is by far the most natural, establishing two strong connected pawns, or is he possibly contemplating taking with the knight?
Look at his time as well, David. His time, he's got...
He's taken with the knight.
Wow.
Okay.
So he's allowing the black rook into the position with a skewer. OK, the bar going up in Magnus's favour. But at least now this is one strong piece and the pawn is pushing forward.
Whoa, look at the bar.
Wow. What is his trick? Has he just missed something here? Because black surely can just jump in with the rook. And as mentioned, this is a skewer. The black rook protected by a bishop. And if the queen moves, the bishop falls behind it. What is the idea? Does he just want to move his queen and then bank on this pawn?
He's got to rely on the b pawn, yeah? But
the queen is looking at it, and the queen can keep a real close eye, and she can move herself back to the square that David indicated, and...
I can't see it myself.
Rook down.
Yeah.
It's going to take white an age to break through. If you try and swing your queen across to try and dislodge the blockader of white's pawn, then the black rook just swings back across, and the white queen can't infiltrate. She can't get through.
That was the worst bit of the day. As soon as I played, as soon as we...
Let's go back to the players. It's really tense, but it looks like Magnus has a winning move here by bringing his rook in.
Wow.
And he finds it.
Yeah, he played it.
Maybe it's just an oversight by Nepomniachtchi. Maybe he just forgot that the queen is guarding the promotion square.
See, if his bishop was back on next to the king, then this would be absolutely fine. So it's that little bishop move he played instantaneously, which really changed the position, I feel.
It's just really funny because it was quite a small, innocuous-looking bishop move, and somehow it's had this like butterfly effect. Where it's created all these complications, and unfortunately, they're all in Magnus's favour.
Yep.
And unfortunately for Jan, it's a bit of déjà vu. It's similar to some of his blunders at the World Championship match, where he just took his eye off the ball for 1 second and maybe misevaluated or saw something that wasn't really there or overestimated his position.
I like some of the... I like that Twitter.
Yeah.
I like the animals when we bring the animals into Twitter, and that is one
And this is
cool-looking dog
from our control room, just a couple meters away from here, because I recognize Bella, the dog, the dog of our producer.
Nice.
Is taking control of this show.
Hello, Bella.
That is Jarle, our producer. Normally, but now Bella's in control.
Was it the producer is on the toilet? He's taking over. Yes,
we have a good replacement.
Nature calls, you know.
Very nice.
It's like Blue Peter, right? And the cats.
Yeah.
How's Charlie doing, Simon?
Charlie's doing great. Yeah. He's an old cat, but he's doing very well. So hello to Charlie the cat.
Definitely.
We'll try to get
Another pet with a Twitter account, right?
He has got a Twitter account, Charlie the Chess Cat. So definitely.
So actually white's pawn has marched forward. Magnus went for the winning move, taking the white bishop off the board. Black is a whole rook up. But Jan is arguing that his pawn, that white pawn on b7 that has just pushed, is worth a whole rook. We think it isn't. The evaluation bar thinks that pawn isn't worth a rook. But Jan's still looking relatively optimistic, and still some tricks in the air. White actually has a threat. White's knight wants to go to the edge of the board to the a6 square to support the advance of that white pawn. So maybe black needs to prevent this. And how do you do that? I guess by just using the black queen as a blockade.
Yeah, I think Ivanka's just, the move of bringing the queen in front of the pawn looks pretty simple. And then are you just going to bring the rook around to a7 and take it? I mean, something like that.
Something like that.
Simple. I mean, simple-ish.
The only thing that I can think of that could potentially be in the air is that maybe white has some captures, knight takes bishop, and then the queen can dive down. But unfortunately, the rook is a really powerful long-range piece, and it can just slide to the open D line and just bring itself back.
I just think the winning idea is queen b8, rook a2, rook a7. I mean, I can't...
We think this is the winning move, and as Simon mentions, the plan is just to bring the rook back and eliminate this pawn, even at the cost of a rook. As long as you get the white knight in the process, black will have an extra bishop. And as Ivanka mentions, a bit of a complicated line here, but knight takes bishop. I mean, if black wants to play it safe, you just take this pawn and probably you're winning anyway. But the most ambitious is also maybe the best. Take this knight off, and after queen takes pawn, this is a deadly threat, actually eliminating the black queen and promoting a white pawn. But rooks are great defenders, and this rook can just step to the side and slide back to defend the 8th rank. And even after queen takes pawn, white has 3 pawns now for a rook, but it's not enough. The black rook will simply step back, and eventually these pawns will drop one by one. And the long way round, but it is winning. Okay, Magnus chooses a different square for his queen. So this one just looks so natural, blockading, but he drops it back 1 square.
Wow.
Oh, the bar is going. Whoa.
Okay,
What has happened?
The computer thinks...
What has happened?
A huge shock. So just to explain, white now has swung the queen across, and Magnus has put his queen on a bad square. Because now the move he wants to play is to bring his rook across, hitting the white queen. But now knight takes bishop would be winning because black's put his queen on the wrong square. There's no time to take the white knight because the rook would fall off.
And they both have their body language. I mean, Magnus head in his hands, and Jan suddenly jumps up.
Yeah.
What a blunder.
It's just careless. He put his queen on the wrong square. He didn't look into the future.
Rising from the dead. We had written Nepomniachtchi off, and suddenly one big mistake.
And now a few moves suggested by the computer, but they're not easy actually here. Magnus has to go into defensive mode. He's shaking his head. He has to bring his rook back and swing it back. The other moves are not obvious at all. Giving a check doesn't help black's situation. White's king will hide safely. And black's third choice move here, which is also fine, putting the king on the side, that's not obvious either. White has a simple plan of bringing the queen up and making a second queen. Magnus can't stop it, really.
That's phenomenal, right?
That's good news for your bet.
Oh, yeah. Get in there, son!
I still win the
Come on.
Well, what is the most likely now with this chaos and clock ticking?
Come on, Jan.
Momentum's on the white side.
Yeah.
I think,
Magnus was
And look at Magnus reacting. He knows.
Yeah.
He blundered.
Yeah.
He just put his queen on a square within range of the white knight.
Totally
and now
forgot
knight takes bishop will always hit the black queen. And he knows it's just careless. It's complacent. Maybe he thought he was just winning instantly. And he's reacting.
Look at that.
He's cursing himself, and
it's going to be hard to come back from that, though, because, I mean, queen b8 is probably just game over, and you just realised you blundered. It's been a long day of chess. Even the top players can make mistakes, and how do you recover from that? Will he recover, or will he give me that third point? Oh, yeah.
I think he'll recover. I think he just has to. He's got 2 minutes. He's got to get it out of his system, stop cursing himself, and look for the best moves.
Yeah.
2 minutes, though. He's got 2 minutes.
But he's out of it, you can see.
Yeah.
That's it. He's now gone back into the concentration mode, and he's trying to find a way how to survive. And he has a few options, as David mentioned.
But they all of the options, I think, involve bringing the black rook into the defence. And that, the most obvious move to me is probably the safest, just moving that black rook across to the left 1 square and bringing it back the whole way. I think in that fashion you can give up the rook for white's very strong pawn and most likely secure a draw, but it's just about whether Magnus can calm himself down. He does found that.
Yeah, OK. I mean, all the games have been so much drama today. I mean, there's just drama. It's incredible, So how much has been going on. And that's bit disappointing, that move. So, but a good move. So
that's why he's the world champion, because he can recover from these setbacks. Everyone blunders. He's human as well.
Yeah.
And he blundered away the win, but he just took a few minutes, got it out of his system, and now finds a good defensive move. Now white's queen going up to the top of the board, check, is going to be blocked by black's rook. And white now can bring the knight over to try and promote to a second queen. We might see a position with 3 queens on the board temporarily, but black's rook will give itself up when that pawn pushes forward.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, when it comes to that resulting ending, queen and knight against queen and bishop, it's going to be Nepomniachtchi who's going to be grinding away.
Wow. And maybe he'll win a pawn in the process. The black c6 pawn might be dropping if black isn't careful here. Magnus still defending. He's the one on the back foot for sure. Not just the momentum changing, but also some serious threats. White is threatening the black queen with his knight, and also black's rook, if it goes and takes the white queen, will allow white to replace that queen with a new one. The white pawn protecting that queen.
It's a little bit worse for him, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's, I wouldn't be able to cope with this turnaround personally. I'd be so annoyed with myself, I'd just crumble. You have to have extreme mental, endurance to be able to just handle a turn of events like that when you know you're completely winning and suddenly you have to defend.
Simon, okay, wow. I was going to say, is he going to promote to a rook? He didn't. He promoted to a queen. Okay, I'm slightly surprised Jan did it in this fashion. He was hoping that he would see a queen exchange and then white's knight would have come round and taken the black c6 pawn. It was indefensible, but Magnus finding a clever move. He wants the queen trade, but on his own terms. So if white takes the queens off now, the black bishop will recapture and everything will be protected. It's hanging by a thread for Magnus. But
I mean, that's the kind of ending where you're a little bit worse, but if you're Magnus, you draw, right?
Yeah.
Because the knight is better than the bishop if the queens come off the board. It's got a lovely square in front of the black pawn, but it's not enough to win because you don't really have any weaknesses to attack. So I think you're still okay. I think things are looking all right.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it will be Nepomniachtchi who's having all the fun. And with that tiny pawn move, there's kind of ghosts in the air, perhaps the white king taking a wander.
Yeah.
A nice little path
to
the left.
black plays copycat, so it's complete symmetry with the pawns on the right half of the board. It just depends whose pieces are better, the knight or the bishop. Should white keep the queens on? What do you guys think?
I think if he wants to win, he should, because the problem with any ending is that white's pawns on the king side are also on light squares. So you've got to try to get your king to the c6 pawn on the other side of the board, but then you leave all your pawns on the same colour square as black's bishop, and I feel that would always give black enough counterplay. So he's playing for the win. I mean, this is, if you want to play for a win, you keep the queens on the board, and he's done that. So, okay, I think it's still a bravish decision to play for the win here.
One thing that does worry me, actually, by keeping the queens on the board, is that the white king doesn't have a safe home. Yes, it can tuck itself in the corner, but, it's still on an open diagonal, and if the black queen manages to find herself on a good circuit, she's going to be checking that white king for a long, long time.
It's a big if, though. I'm not sure how the queen gets there. Maybe black will have to take some big decisions in the meantime, and Magnus can't take those big decisions with much time on his clock.
35 seconds.
Okay.
Incredible.
The bet is still in the balance, that's for sure.
No, it is. I have to say, I'm feeling a lot more confident than I was. Definitely. I mean, knight and queen are just tremendous at working together.
Yeah, they combine so well. And meanwhile, black's king, a bit scared of any potential attacks. It has tucked itself away. I expect white to do the same before Jovanka's idea becomes really effective. Now it's harder for the black queen to go for those checks directly.
Yeah.
And both kings super safe, but the queen and knight looking better coordinated for now than the queen and bishop.
Yep.
Oof. Yeah, this one, it could come down to the clock as well.
Yep.
Magnus pushing pawns. Probably
Again.
carry the h-pawn when in doubt.
Designed to kind of keep the white king unsafe. That's the main purpose. And again, you just use up some time on the clock. There's really not that much that black can do, apart from push pawns.
Look at Magnus's face as well, shaking his head, leaning back, frowning. Yeah. The black queen is almost stuck, just defending the pawn in front of her.
Because you can't move the black queen into the corner to come down. I guess you just go queen to a5. You just block the queen. And
You've got to be careful. White's queen doesn't come in towards the black king as well.
This is a good positional move to stop black from playing that move and having more chances to check with the black queen. So keeping the pressure up. I mean, but OK, how is white going to win this? That's the question. I mean, you can try a lot of things, but there's no obvious way if Magnus just moves his king around like he's doing.
Well, Magnus actually gave us a little bit of a masterclass yesterday in the semis. He kind of said, there's no obvious win, so you just be patient and you just keep prodding and poking and seeing what you can achieve.
Yeah, wait for the mistake.
They're both under a minute now. Both under a minute, so the tempo's very slow. At some point, it's going to have to go. It's going to have to speed up because otherwise, they're just going to lose on time. So, they're playing like a classical game here, but they've got like 30 seconds left. So it's like,
this is a real chilled out.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
For now,
bullet
For
game.
under a minute.
both sides copying each other as well, pushing pawns in symmetry. And now the black king came forward, the white king came forward, black's king stepping back. I think they're a winning plan. That's the question.
I think the problem is if white ever tries to move his queen, it allows the black queen to come in, because at the moment the white queen is covering some very important squares. So, well, is he going to
before?
Is he going to go? He can't go for the draw now, can he?
He's going to push.
But look at Jan's face, shaking his head. He's down on the clock now as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good practical decision just to escape with that draw. Allow me to win the bet, please.
Yeah, that's it.
What else is there? OK, he goes for the win.
Good man.
Good
man.
We like.
He's been so brave today. I mean,
Every game,
brilliant. He's often turned down the draw today. Which
Fighting chess index score going up and up for both players.
He deserves it.
And, OK, white's queen on the 7th rank, but as you mentioned, this does allow the black queen to finally step away from the defence of her c6 pawn. Now the black queen has an open line to try and break through on, maybe a diagonal towards the white king.
I think if the queens come off, then, OK, he's playing this. This is... OK, I feel now black should be all right because his queen's going to dive into the position.
Black can go active.
Lots of perpetual checks, lots of attacks against g2. I guess so.
Yeah, I think black can pretty much secure the draw now by bringing the queen active. And this is instructive. You don't want to go passive. You don't want to just defend that black pawn with your queen. That will give white time. Now diving in.
Yeah, active defence, always the best if you can do it. We talked about this before. Don't go passive if you've got a choice to go active.
Black unfortunately doesn't have the opportunity to ask for more from the position by introducing the bishop. Oh, he does. He does go for it. But OK, now it's Nepomniachtchi who has to force the draw.
And look at him. He's smiling. He has to repeat moves. Otherwise, white is about to get checkmated. And there we go. More drama in this match. But it's a draw again.
And they're both shaking their head again. It's like, incredible day of chess.